जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, करतारपुर कॉरिडोर के रास्ते मार्च 2020 में के कोविड 19 महामारी के कारण बंद हो गया, उसके यूज़ बंद हो गया, कर दिया गया था। भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच भूमि यात्रा पाकिस्तानी पक्ष के साथ समन्वय में अटारी वागा एकत्रित चेक पोस्ट के माध्यम से सीमित पैमाने पर की जा रही थी। बहुत कम लोग क्रॉस कर रहे थे। दोनों पक्ष अपने मौजूदा नियमों और स्वास्थ्य दिशा निर्देशों के पालन कर रहे हैं अभी भी कोविड के। और ये गुरु पर्व के महत्व और उससे जुड़ी भावनाओं को देखते हुए ये निर्णय लिया गया है कि लगभग 1500 तीर्थ यात्रियों का एक जत्था उत्तर वाघा आईसीपी के रास्ते 17 से 26 नवंबर की आपने जिक्र की थी, मेरे पास वही डेट्स हैं, तक पाकिस्तान की यात्रा करेगा। ये यात्रा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच धार्मिक तीर्थों की यात्रा पर 1974 के द्विपक्षीय प्रोटोकॉल के तहत शामिल की गई है। तीर्थयात्रियों का गुरुद्वारा श्री दरबार साहिब, गुरुद्वारा श्री पंजा साहिब, गुरुद्वारा श्री देहरा साहिब, गुरुद्वारा श्री ननकाना साहिब, गुरुद्वारा श्री करतारपुर साहिब और गुरुद्वारा श्री सच्चा सौदा जाने का कार्यक्रम है अभी तक जो प्लान चल रहा है। I will come back and repeat in English. Usually I'm asked to do the reverse, but I will. पाकिस्तान ने इससे पहले इस साल जून में 2 बार भारत से सिख तीर्थ यात्रियों की पाकिस्तान यात्रा की अनुमति से इनकार कर दिया था। एक गुरु अर्जन देव जी के शहादत दिवस के अवसर पर और दूसरा महाराजा रंजीत सिंह जी के पुण्यतिथि पर। ये दोनों जत्थों भी 1974 के द्विपक्षीय प्रोटोकॉल के तहत शामिल हैं। अपेक्षा यही है कि हम जा पाए, ये इस बार का जत्था जा पाए। लेट मी सम पीपल सेड इन इंग्लिश, we all are aware that movement through the Kartarpur Corridor was suspended in March 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic. Land travel between India and Pakistan is since being conducted on a limited scale through the Attari-Wagah Integrated Check Post in coordination with the Pakistani side, and both sides follow their own extant rules and health guidelines. In view of the significance of Gurpurb and the sentiments associated with it, it has been decided that a jatha of around 1500 pilgrims will visit Pakistan from November 17 to 26 this year via the Attari-Wagah ICP. This visit is covered under the 1974 bilateral protocol between India and Pakistan on visits to religious shrines. The pilgrims are scheduled to visit Gurudwara Shri Darbar Sahib, Gurudwara Shri Panja Sahib, Gurudwara Shri Dehra Sahib, Gurudwara Shri Nankana Sahib, Gurudwara Shri Kartarpur Sahib, and Gurudwara Shri Sacha Sauda. Pakistan had earlier denied permission for the visit of Sikh pilgrims from India to Pakistan on 2 occasions in June this year. One on the occasion of the martyrdom day of Guru Arjan Dev, and second on the death anniversary of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji. Both these jathas were also covered under the 1974 bilateral protocol. We hope that the forthcoming jatha through Kartarpur Corridor does take place. इस पे हमने एक्चुअली, मैं क्या कहूँ इसमें, देखिए एज यू नो अभी NSA लेवल डायलॉग, अभी DLS लेवल मीटिंग हुई थी यहाँ पे 7 देशों के नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एडवाइजर्स या सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल्स के जो सेक्रेटरीज होते हैं वो आए थे यहाँ पे। जो डिस्कशंस हुई वो बहुत अच्छी रही। उसके ऊपर काफ़ी लोगों की सहमति रही बहुत मुद्दों पर, और इस सहमति के कारण हमारे पास फ़ायदा ये हुआ कि हम एक दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन निकाल पाए। तो उससे हमने उसमें, आपने देखा ही होगा, उसको पब्लिक हमने कर दिया है कि काफ़ी लोगों ने उसमें क्या कहा है। डिस्कशंस वहाँ पे टेररिज्म के मुद्दे पे, वहाँ से अफ़गानिस्तान से टेररिज्म ना हो, और हम लोग कैसे इंक्लूसिव गवर्नेंस सिस्टम वहाँ पे ला सकें या हो उस देश में, और ह्यूमैनिटेरियन नीड्स क्या है, उनको जो ज़रूरतें हैं। ये भी तय किया गया कि हम इस पे इस तरह के जो फॉर्मेट में डिस्कशंस हों ये चालू रहे। तो ये सब बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट मुद्दे थे जिसमें क्लियरली ये था कि हम लोग इतने सारे जो रीजनल देश हैं ये मानते हैं कि इनका आना यहाँ पे और ये डिस्कशंस इस तरह के होना उनके लिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है। और हमारे देश में आके और इंडिया का होना उस ऐसे बैठक में, ऐसे डिस्कशंस में बहुत उनके लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। इसमें हमने चीन को भी आमंत्रण जारी किया था। उन्होंने, जैसे आपने कहा, कुछ कारणवश शेड्यूलिंग, वो कह रहे थे कि नहीं आ पाए। अब बाकी वो कहाँ और जाते हैं और क्या करते हैं, इस पर मैं टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहूँगा। आपने कहा पाकिस्तान में जो हो रहा है, देखिए पाकिस्तान को भी इनविटेशन दिया गया था, आमंत्रण जारी किया गया था, वो नहीं आए। इसमें मैं यही कहूँगा कि ऐसे इम्पोर्टेंट मीटिंग में नहीं आए तो उनका इससे पता चल सकता है कि उनका किस तरह का रवैया है अफ़गानिस्तान के मुद्दे पर। मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा। Siddhant, moving on to your question regarding steps on humanitarian support. Look, let me reiterate of what actually came up in the discussions and also what we have put out. I think India's support and to the people of Afghanistan is very clear. It is led, it's a people led interaction and our involvement with that country. We have been extending support over many years for the people of Afghanistan. I don't need to reiterate that today. Situation on the ground has become very difficult over the last few months since the transition there. And accordingly, I think we have been participating in meetings where this issue of how to address humanitarian concerns, impending humanitarian concerns. As you know, I was just talking to Madhurendra regarding the NSA meeting where the very serious humanitarian situation in Afghanistan was discussed at length. And one of the key elements which we have seen in previous meetings was the need for unimpeded, unhindered access for aid or humanitarian assistance providers. And I think that is a key element of anything that we would be in a position to extend assistance. As you know, we have been looking at the possibilities, but there have been difficulties due to lack of unimpeded access. On the e-visas, I'm afraid, as I have always been saying, you'll have to contact our Home Ministry. That is on the visa element. Let me move on to the questions regarding, I think you mentioned about Pentagon report. I think NDTV was asking more about there is a village near the border or in the border. Let me choose my words more carefully because there are different elements in this. Look, as regard the US report, it was the US Department of Defense report to the US Congress. As far as we understand, we have taken note of the US Department of Defense report to the US Congress, which inter alia also makes a reference to construction activities by the Chinese side along the India-China border areas, particularly in the eastern sector. Reports had also appeared in the media earlier this year on this issue. As we had stated then, China has undertaken construction activities in the past several years along the border areas, including in the areas that it has illegally occupied over decades. India has neither accepted such illegal occupation of our territory, nor has it accepted the unjustified Chinese claims. Government has always conveyed its strong protest to such activities through diplomatic means and will continue to do so in the future. Further, as conveyed earlier, the government has also stepped up border infrastructure, including the construction of roads, bridges, etc., which have provided much needed connectivity to the local population along the border. Government remains committed to the objective of creating infrastructure along the border areas for the improvement of livelihood of its citizens, including in Arunachal Pradesh. And of course, government keeps a constant watch on all developments having a bearing on India's security and takes all necessary measures to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity. So I think that addresses both the queries that you had mentioned. शैलेंद्र जी, आपने मॉस्को फॉर्मेट का जिक्र किया था, आपने ठीक ही कहा था। हमने उसमें जो कहना था उस समय कह दिया। मैं अब उसमें और कहने के लिए मेरे पास अभी नहीं है। हमारी वो मीटिंग रही थी जिसमें हमारे 2 डिप्लोमेट्स गए थे वहाँ पे। वार्तालाप हुई थी, पर उसके अलावा जो हमने जितना वहाँ कहा था काफ़ी है. Look, there was a querying, I think, from Kallol about the urge. I think, as I was starting off by saying, during the NSA meeting, both at the bilateral meetings as well as in the meetings that, the actual conference that took place, there was clearly concern over the very serious humanitarian situation, and I would say looming humanitarian situation rather than, just immediate. There is obviously no deadline for such things, but the fact that all the regional countries were on the same page in expressing their concern on the humanitarian situation and their determination to see that assistance is provided, and their call for ensuring unimpeded and unhindered movement of goods as well as movement of aid workers, etc. I think shows the importance of it. I don't think they've had a deadline in mind, but naturally this with winter approaching, there are reports, disturbing reports coming in of the dire humanitarian situation, and I hope that this call, a joint call by so many national security heads, would spur movement on the ground. संजय जी, आई थिंक आपने जिक्र किया कि वहाँ चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग की बात हो रही थी. या देखिए एग्जैक्टली उस पर चर्चा हुई है नहीं, मुझे चेक करना पड़ेगा, पर ये सिक्योरिटी की दृष्टि से मीटिंग हो रही थी. यूएन के असिस्टेंस की बात तो नहीं हुई थी इसमें. सारे देशों ने अपने क्या पर्सपेक्टिव, अपने नज़रिए से किस तरह का सिचुएशन है और किस तरह के हमारे मतलब हम कैसे देखते हैं. और हमें जो मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहूँगा कि ये सारे 8 देश 7 वो जो आए थे, हमें एक कॉमन पोजीशन था कि देखिए जो थ्रेट्स हैं, जो सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस हैं उस देश से, वो हमारे सबका नज़रिया सिमिलर था, सिमिलर पर्सपेक्टिव्स था. पर ये चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग इशू पे अब मुझे तो कोई खबर नहीं था कि ऐसे ये स्पेसिफिक इस बिंदु पे बात हुई थी या नहीं, पर अगर हो तो हमें आपको बताएंगे. आपने who asked about the I think you asked about 3 NSAs की ब्रीफिंग के बारे में पूछा था. आई थिंक दैट वाज द देखिए NSA met with the other NSAs also. Okay, तो सिर्फ not just 3. We haven't issued anything on that of the meetings because these are security meetings which are held between the NSAs. तो इसमें जो बातें हुई थी उसमें हम तो सब चाहेंगे कि जानना क्या होता है, पर देखिए मीटिंग्स ऐसी होती हैं कि हर चीज़ बताया नहीं जा पाता है. अगर उनके तरफ से कुछ निकला है ठीक है, हमारे तरफ से हमने फॉर्मली कुछ नहीं कहा है. आई थिंक दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन ऑब्जेक्टिव मेन था और उसमें काफ़ी कुछ कहा गया है. कॉमन ऑब्जेक्टिव अफगानिस्तान पे था. जो द्विपक्षीय मुद्दों पे चर्चा हुई थी उसमें अभी तक तो ये सिक्योरिटी पर्सपेक्टिव से है, तो हमने इसको पब्लिकली नहीं उसको रिलीज़ किया है. एक बात रही, हाँ, आई थिंक somebody mentioned about the purported joint statement. I like the word you chose. Interim, very difficult words you've used. Interim government, interim joint statement. Interim Afghan government. We participated in the event. This event was hosted by Russia. It's an important event. I think it achieved a lot of important milestones in discussions on this. It's been some time also. To be honest, this is not an immediate one. It was issued as a statement. I have nothing further to say in terms of either questioning it or accepting it. Does it have signatures? I leave it at that. Look, I think as regards, you have raised a valid point. Back to where we have been talking about. How do we see the situation, the current ruling dispensation in Afghanistan or regime? We have been guided, as most of the world countries around the world have been guided by Resolution 2590 UN Security Council 2593, and I think that's where I would leave it as. You know our position on that, and I don't think this issue of characterizing or putting a nomenclature on that is the important part. What is the important part is ensuring that the aspiration, the expectations of the international community as outlined in Resolution 2593, that is what the important part is. Look, as I said, it was something that they issued, and I think it would best ask to them, no? Coming back to, I think, Pranay, you mentioned about OIC. देखिए ये अभी हाल ही के स्टेटमेंट है, तो इसमें मेरा कोई डिटेल्ड रिस्पांस नहीं है, पर मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहूँगा कि ये हमें अंदरूनी मामला है जिसमें दखल अंदाजी है. हमने पहले भी बहुत बार इस विषय पे कह चुके हैं कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में ऑक्युपाइड जम्मू एंड कश्मीर पे ये विजिट्स इस तरह के, और हम इसको दखलंदाजी हमारे अंदरूनी मामला में इस तरह से देखते हैं. अगर हमारे पास और ज़्यादा कुछ कहने के लिए है बाद में, तो मैं उस पर आपको बताऊंगा. पर अभी हुआ है, आने के पहले ही हमने देखा आज ही आफ्टरनून में, तो हमें इसमें मैं अभी के लिए मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा. Look, I don't know where you've got the 96 number from, because it's from different places. I would refer you to the notification that, there is a category. No, that's what I'm saying. So there are multiple places this number is coming from. So let me clarify what I'm going to answer on. In the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare on its webpage, as well as on the webpage of the Ministry of External Affairs, in fact that's for all our listeners and viewers, we have a link in the Ministry of External Affairs webpage. It's COVID. If you go to COVID on our main landing page and link on what is, because it helps people to understand, you can understand and you can see the latest update, which provides a link to the Health Ministry's notification or the details. You will see that as of, I think, 9th of November, it has been updated. There are two types of lists. One is high-risk categories. There's a few countries. And then there is what is called a category A. As you also know, today, just now, a little while earlier, the Health Ministry has issued revised guidelines for entry into India for foreign travelers. But it broadly sticks to the same nomenclature, which is you have a high risk and you have a category A. What is category A? The category A countries are countries that either because they acknowledge WHO approved vaccines, or they have our national vaccines, they have, they accept, are in that list. Okay, that list is currently 96 countries. So that list is publicly available. I would recommend and I would refer you to that list. Now, whether we would hope, as you know, in a significant development, the India developed and produced vaccine Covaxin was accorded the emergency use licensing by the World Health Organization earlier this month on November 3rd. We feel that this should ease international travel of those vaccinated with Covaxin. Many countries already recognize, as I said, WHO approved vaccines. And now with Covaxin joining this list, that should become automatic. Some countries have had issued individual orders for individual vaccines, and they perhaps need to issue separate orders for Covaxin. And we are taking up this matter with those countries. Some countries have also accorded on their own national regulatory clearance to Covaxin. And so this list of countries that accept Covaxin may be further enlarged. So these 96 countries either have accepted WHO vaccines, which will include both Covishield and Covaxin, or in some cases perhaps only Covishield or Covaxin. But we hope that with the Covaxin having got WHO approval, this list will become, in fact the list will go up and all 96 or more countries will accept both our vaccines. So that's I think a significant improvement in ease of travel of vaccinated Indians abroad. There was a query regarding, sorry, I didn't complete my initial thought, which was the category A basically allows members or citizens, travelers from those countries to enter India without quarantine if they are fully vaccinated, if they are otherwise subject to quarantine because of the high risk category list. It's a little complicated because it's a health issue, but we go by the guidelines of Health Ministry on this. Moving on to the issue of vaccine Maitri, which was asked. Look, I don't know if it's called vaccine Maitri or not, but let me just say that keeping in mind our domestic requirement of vaccines, we have resumed our overseas supply of India-made vaccines. Some shipments have already taken place, while others are in the pipeline, including through the COVAX facility. Of course, details of this I would refer you to the relevant health and regulatory authorities. I had a query regarding SCO. I don't have any, I don't remember who asked me. You asked me, yeah. On SCO, look, as we know, there are multiple platforms and groupings that have been discussing this important issue of Afghanistan, including this recent NSA meeting. But as of right now, I'm not aware of any initiative to ask the SCO to host a meeting. But as I said, as of right now, I don't have any information that we have or are planning to. If we do, let's see. SCO does meet, and if the SCO leaders meet and they discuss Afghanistan, possibly. But as of now, I don't have any information on that. Moving on to a query, I think, on Rafael was asked. Look, I don't really know what to say. Let me just reiterate what I had said, I think, earlier, a couple of months ago, as I had mentioned on that occasion. This is clearly a matter, for the Ministry of Defence, and I would not Indian Air Force, but I think perhaps Ministry of Defence, and I would refer you to them for any response. नीरज, आपने जिक्र किया था NRI वोटिंग के बारे में सकारात्मक, पता नहीं आपको कैसे मालूम सका हमारे सरकार में सकारात्मक इस मंत्रालय ने क्या कहा और क्या नहीं कहा, पर मैं सिर्फ कहूँगा कि मेरे पास कोई अभी अपडेट नहीं है, पर ये इम्पोर्टेंट मुद्दा है जिसमें देखते हैं कैसा, जब कोई हो इन्फॉर्मेशन ज़रूर आपके साथ हम शेयर करेंगे. On the similarly Republic Day, there was a query. Forget Sheikh Hasina or any other particular individual. When these are, we have had a tradition for many years to have a high-level dignitary part of our Republic Day celebrations, and at an appropriate and opportune time, we shall share the details once it's finalized. There was a query on the Pfizer Moderna. I think that's a query better addressed to our health regulators. I would just like to mention that we do have now a very good supply of domestic other vaccines, but whether that is what are the state or what is the discussions are not, I think, purview of the Ministry of External Affairs. I think the health authorities would have a better picture of that. On the Russian statement, look, I think that was their understanding and a readout of that conversation. I think they focus more on the bilateral rather than the statement, but they did mention about that. I saw that. I don't have a reaction. I think it just emphasizes and highlights what was said in the Delhi Declaration, and I would tend to say is a good reflection of the conversations, and I would leave it at that. I mean, it's their statement, and I have no real immediate reaction to it. It's their understanding and readout of the conversation. On the Indian Ocean, sorry, what was the question on the Indian Ocean? I don't have an immediate comment except to say that, look, I don't know the details of it, but we'll have to examine what it means. I know there is these efforts to strengthen defense and capabilities of countries, and we always look at it. We need to look at it from our national security perspective, but this is a sensitive issue that's, I think, just not our MEA issue altogether, so I will leave it at that.